Hi, welcome back. It's Dr. Phyllis, your coach for the Joy Fueled Resilient Woman podcast. Today, we're in the second part of a three-part series about the power of silence. In part one, I shared with you my wish for you to find the courage to be uncomfortable in silence. And today, I want to continue with let God meet you in the garden. And what that is talking about is there's the basis is there is a hymn, old hymn called In the Garden. And I grew up with that hymn, and I was laughing as I thought about this earlier today. It was one of the first solos, one of two. Jesus Loves Me was one I remember singing in church as a little girl. And the second one was In the Garden. And I love that hymn because it paints the picture, the songwriter paints the picture of meeting God in the garden and the visual of meeting him while the dew is still on the roses. So it's early in the morning, the air is crisp, there's dew on the roses. You can just imagine it's fresh. And that's where the writer talks about meeting God. And that is just comforting. And I think because I love the mornings, I love when you can feel the dew, the dampness of the morning. And it's just a beautiful visual of God ready to meet us there. And so last week I talked about the courage to be in silence. And so today, the next stepping stone is when we get in silence, God will meet you there. He'll meet you there. God will meet you in silence. And to me, that silent place is it like that garden, that protected space where you're by yourself with Him. And you can create that. Last week, I encouraged you that if it's in your car or creating that moment, which I hope you were able to do, is create that moment throughout the day, be it turn that radio off in the car, turn that phone off in the car. Sometimes when you're walking or you're on the treadmill, because I pray that you're having a chance to move through the day, or when you're walking at your job, take a moment to just shut out the noise. Now, if you've got a very busy morning, it may only be that 5 to 10 minutes before you get out of bed in the morning, just to start. Or maybe it's after you drop your kids off. Or maybe it's when you first get in your office and you shut that door and you don't just start in on everything that's on your desk or jump right into your emails or jump right into having conversations. Because I used to when I was working, especially in the nursing facilities years ago, and the staff, we would laugh about it because when I first got in, because I would be driving on two wheels after dropping my kids off in the morning, and I was like, give me a moment and I'll be with you. Just I need a moment. So you have to create those moments to meet him in the garden. I like to do it especially in the morning because I'm a morning person. And I have found that once the day gets going, I just lose control of the day because it's I don't know about you. I'm sure our days are similar where once the day gets going, you have no control. You're hit with a lot of different demands and requests, some expected, many unexpected. But what I do have control most of the time over is what time I get up and carving out time in the very early the morning before I have to pick up my other tasks. And that allows me to meet God. And when you have a chance to carve that out, and again, you can do it in the car, as I mentioned even last week, getting quiet is now once you have created that space, that time, now you have to get your mind to be quiet. And you have to tell your brain, okay, I'm going to be quiet now. I'm not going to worry about what's going to happen next. I am going to invite the Lord in. Lord, I'm here. Tell me what you need me to hear. So I want you, once you have carved out that time, you've taken that time because you know no one's going to give you that time. No one's going to tell you to take time. You have to carve it out yourself. I want you to say, Lord, allow me to rest my mind, to calm my spirit, and talk to me, Lord. Give me rest, replenish my mind, help me keep going. And especially, Lord, just speak to my spirit and tell me what you need me to know. And the more you do that during the day, the longer, especially you can do it in the morning. And you've heard me say this several times today, is as I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, I said, no one is going to tell you to take time. And if they do, what do we usually do? What do you do as a resilient woman? Oh, I'm fine. No, I can do it for you. Because the last thing we want to do is say no, right? The last thing you want to do is say no. And, I've talked to you about that, right? And I think that'll be something good we need to revisit in another show is the power of no. But no one is going to do that for you. No one is going to tell you, okay, I want you to go away well, I shouldn't say no one. Sometimes, you know, your family or a friend may tell you, hey, get out of here. Your boss may be the type of boss that'll say, you know what, get out of here early, go home. Now, you and I both know, though, 9 times out of 10, when that happens, you don't go and take time for yourself. You figure it's a chance to go run an errand or do something you didn't get a chance to do, or it's not going to really take a moment for yourself to meet God in the garden. So I really want you to know how important it is that it's just not enough, sis, to keep putting it off and say, well, when the kids get out of school, when they're done with school, or when they get older, then I'm going to take time to, really, meet with God and grow. Or I'm going to wait until I don't have to help care for my family member, or I'm going to wait until work gets a little bit lighter. Then I'm going to really invest and take some time and get my brain together, get my spirit together, or, just when this project gets done, when I get this done, then I'm going to do it. You and I both know you're not going to do it. And by the time that happens, you're going to be so exhausted. If you're not exhausted already, you're depleted. And then you feel like you're on this perpetual hamster wheel or treadmill because your brain is just overwhelmed and stressed out and overextended. And you feel like you're overcommitted and you're like beating yourself up, like, why did I do this? How? But you feel like you don't know how to get off of the hamster wheel. And that's why, sis, I want you to every day, it is an imperative, it is critical that every day you meet God in the garden. And I'm pushing you. I say in the morning. Now, if you work at night, whatever your morning is, whatever is the beginning of your day. So if you work at night, then that means, you know, when you're driving in, and because we're going to be talking about some transitions in part 3 of this series, but find that time to meet God in the garden. Find that time to build upon that carving out of silence, to then inviting God in to meet with you, to talk with you, for you to talk to him and be honest on how you're feeling. Tell him he already knows all your business. He already knows your secrets already. He already knows. And he loves you because we're all are broken. We all have sinned and fallen short. And maybe for you, that's not the issue, but maybe you have some negative thoughts, or you're burnout, you're fatigued, and you just don't know what to do next, or maybe he's been trying to get your attention and you've somewhat not getting a clue that he's trying to get your attention. So when you meet with him in the garden, it gets back to what we talked about last week, is that courage to be uncomfortable with silence. Now is to let him meet you. Let God meet you in the garden. Let him meet you in the silence. And ask him, Lord, not my will, but your will be done. What is it that you need for me to do? Lord, I am feeling overextended and I'm feeling guilty because I feel like you've blessed me with these gifts and I care so much, and I don't want to feel like a quitter, and I don't want to say no, and I feel like if it's going to get done, I have to be the one to do it. All of that. I want you to give it to him and let him know. Go deep, sis, and let him speak to your spirit. Let him know that you feel like the light of your passion and joy of doing what you're doing is just like flickering, and you don't know why, or you feel like you just don't know what to do next, or you don't feel like you're really enjoying life, or you just need to be renewed and refreshed, let him know and let him speak to you. So this week, last week we talked about creating those moments of silence and being uncomfortable in the silence. And this week we talked about inviting God to meet you in your silence, which I call in the garden, while the dew is still on the roses. And next week we're going to talk about transitions. I pray that this episode has been helpful to you and that this week you will meet with God. I love you. I see you. Please share this show, this episode with others. And I'll see you next week on the Joy Fueled Resilient Woman podcast. Bye for now.